Please give us a bit of history about yourself and the vision and history of the school.
Absolutely. So let me talk just briefly about myself, and then I'll talk about Grandview, a little bit about the history and where we're headed.
Sure.
So I am the first female president at Grandview University, and we've been around 128 years. I'm in my second year, so I can only claim about a year and a half of that 128 years, but had some amazing predecessor presidents before me who have really taken Grandview from our beginnings. Were very humble. We started as an academy for Danish immigrants. We're the only Danish founded university in America. And then adapted into a private 2-year, essentially a community college or a vocational technical college, and then became a baccalaureate 4-year degree granting institution. We now have 9 master's degrees that we offer, and we're about to launch our first doctoral program. So we really have been about adaptation and market relevance since our beginnings. And that's absolutely part of my story as well. I'm a recovering attorney, spent the first 20 years of my career practicing law, and then pivoted into the higher education space, initially in the philanthropic realm, fundraising, and then became a college president about 7 years ago. And Grandview is my second presidency.
How do you think about approaching partnerships? And ultimately, when you think about the goals of those partnerships, what does that look like from your perspective?
Well, the beauty of partnerships, particularly true partnerships, is that they are equal in that it's not us coming to you and delivering a product or forcing a product, or we're the experts and you're not. I mean, in reality, it's this synergistic, let's help each other out. We need you, you need us, and we're better together. All ships rise together. And that's been definitely part of my focus, and my personal and professional mission is to really help not only the university, but also our partners and ultimately our learners, to really just optimize the resources and opportunities that we have. One of the most important elements of a true partnership is listening to each other, and really taking the time and intentionally investing in learning about your partner, so that we have a true understanding and a wide open view about what each of us need, and also what each of us bring to the table. One of the things that's also unique about Grandview is that, again, in light of our humble beginnings, we have a large percentage of our population who are first generation college students. We also have a high diversity rate, which is awesome amongst our student body. Not only is that awesome in terms of social mobility and professional mobility for our learners, but it's also a wonderful opportunity for our learners to learn from each other in terms of that intercultural, multicultural, and shared lived experiences model that you get both in and outside of the classroom. But one of the important elements about first generation college students, and also students and learners who are maybe socioeconomically challenged as well, is that in addition to offering the learning and the learning opportunities, we also need to be very cognizant of the resources, and in many cases, the lack of resources for our students. And so it is absolutely part of our mission to make sure that the preparation and the opportunities that we provide are pragmatic and useful, and will certainly be worth the investment for our learners at the end of their academic journey with us. And hopefully that academic journey actually never does end, because we are also what the Danish call a school for life. And that has 2 elements. Not only does it have that temporal element, or that time element of learning for life, learning for the rest of your life, but it also means it's a school for life in terms of your whole life, not just your intellectual life. And that's one of the reasons, we'll get into this, but that's one of the reasons why we were so drawn to the MedCerts model, is because it's not just about learning and teaching. It's also about those wraparound services and paying attention to the whole student and not just the academic or the financial piece of the learning journey.
How are you thinking about certifications, and how are you weaving that into your strategic initiatives?
Well, as I shared with you earlier, we have been about adaptation from the beginning. And if you are paying attention to the future of work and the future of education and the future intersection of those two industries, adaptation is at the core. And so one of the beauties of a place like Grandview is that we have that deep history, that deep intellectual history of that traditional liberal arts learning modality, but we are also intentionally and strategically incorporating skills development and certifications and credentialing into our curriculum, both in our traditional degree seeking pathways and also with regard to the Jacobson Institute, which is really our innovation lab for that intersection of business and education. And so the importance of skills, if you look at the data, if you look at the research, whether that comes from the Department of Labor or the World Economic Forum or the New Work Mindset, pivoting and shifting and change is at the core of what we can look forward to and anticipate in the future. And if you have a growth mindset, which is certainly something that we at Grandview teach to our learners, a growth mindset signifies that I have unlimited ability to grow. I am not, I don't have boundaries. I don't have limits in terms of what I'm capable of, despite what maybe someone in my past has told me, or despite what maybe a former employer has told me or a former teacher has told me. The possibilities are limitless. And so what we love about the Grandview University and Jacobson Institute model is it's plucking and taking the best of both of those worlds. In terms of the liberal arts tradition, what many people think of is, your traditional reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? But what it's really about is what we call persistent skills or power skills. And those are those skills that persist and last and will be relevant and powerful for the rest of your life. Skills like creativity, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, design thinking, all of those types of skills that are really, really human skills. But then we also recognize the importance of more perishable skills, or skills that maybe don't have the longevity that those power or persistent skills have, but they're still very, very necessary and very relevant, particularly right now. They generally have a shelf life of 5 to 7 years before either upskilling or reskilling is necessary. And a lot of the IT work and a lot of the work that MedCerts and the teachings that MedCerts provides are those short-term bursts of really relevant, right now, cutting edge skills that are needed. But that's why that school for life idea and that learning for life idea is so important, because you're not done. I mean, we all need to be prepared to learn for life if we want to be successful. And so part of the beauty of the partnership is that we all bring skills and expertise to the table to help learners understand and see that as they gain competence and confidence, they are absolutely set up to succeed for whatever comes our way in the future.
What are your thoughts regarding today's workforce landscape and how institutions should be thinking about adaptability more?
Well, certainly the pandemic has impacted especially our young learners today. It really interrupted and changed the focus of their learning. And when you experience trauma and or rapid change that comes along with a lot of stress, it really does impact your, again, that confidence in yourself. And let's be frank, it really reduce the opportunity for our young learners to get out of their homes and interact in person with people, whether that would have been through social or even organized activities, and also through, teenage jobs and high school jobs that maybe you and I had, that really helped us to learn how to work under someone who wasn't a parent or wasn't a coach. And some of those safety parameters are gone, and you really have to sink or swim. And I recently sat in on a researcher who was talking about the level of risk that young people today have been exposed to versus the level of risk that maybe you or I or older generations have. Not that you're old, but older than our young learners who just went through the pandemic in high school. And you think about, this researcher used the example of jungle gyms, and how back in the 60s, jungle gyms were 3-4 stories high of lead pipe over concrete. And now you look at jungle gyms today and they're less than a story high. And generally they have, cut up rubber tires or a very soft, safe surface. And, God bless the lawyers who have made all of that happen. But in reality, as we as parents and educators intentionally expose our young people to calculated risk that allows those learners to stretch their boundaries in a safe but also a way that allows them to learn and seek the competence that they need to have the confidence that they need to keep going. That's really been limited for some of our young people who have just gone through the pandemic, and our young learners. And so we at Grandview and are really cognizant of that. And so some of the work that we have to do and need to do and should do with our youngsters when they first get here is really to address some of those issues, so that they can be set up to really learn as optimally as possible. And we can't take for granted the lived experiences that some of us older um, uh, educators and teachers and professionals have been through, because that is not the experience that our younger learners have been through.
It's true.
And so we are cognizant of that here at Grandview, but also there have been some really, really good things that have come out of the pandemic that maybe we didn't get to experience back in the day. And that is things like the digital agility that our young students have, and that even though they may have some anxiety about change, but they've lived literally through one of the toughest times in history. And if we can help them to shift and rewrite the narrative about what they experienced, I absolutely think that that contributes to that confidence and competence that's necessary to continue to move forward in the learning space. Now, to the second part of your question, I think one of the challenges or barriers to higher education is that in our history, higher education institutions have been at their core about mastery, right? So mastering a particular discipline, mastering a particular subject matter. And one of the problems with mastery is that you forget how to think like a rookie. There's a great book out there right now, just came out by Liz Wiseman, called Rookie Mindset. And the idea behind that is that as a rookie, you understand, I don't know what I don't know. And so I have to be very quick in terms of learning. But I also have to understand that I need to ask for help and reach out to the experts that I have access to, and maybe even cultivate experts that I don't have access to, so that I can learn what I need to learn to move as quickly as possible to demonstrate that I am the right person for this job, and to really show that I'm capable of doing this, even though I'm not a master or I'm not an expert yet. But the goal is then moving forward is to have that dual modality. I need and want to be an expert of whatever it is that I need to be an expert at, but I also need to maintain that rookie mindset and understand that I need to be constantly curious. And I also need to be constantly collaborative with people around me, because the reality is, as information, it continues to expand and explode in our worlds, no one No one has the capability of knowing everything. And so we absolutely have to be able to quickly and effectively engage with other human beings and honestly with technology as well, so that we can perform at our very best.
What is your perspective on getting graduates into the workforce, the changes in the workforce, and then ultimately, what level of impact does that have on decisions that you would make running an organization or an institution like Grandview or the Jacobson Institute?
Organizations, be it government or industry or corporations or even small businesses, are changing their hiring requirements. And let's be honest, it's because they have to. Because there's such a talent shortage, they can no longer have those barriers in place, or they have zero or very few people in the pool. Now, what we are finding though is there may be a release of those requirements to hire, but it still impacts your professional trajectory as an employee once you get into the organization. So it may get you in the door, but if you want to advance, if you want to grow, if you want to be promoted, you have got to be committed to investing in yourself. And, we talked a little bit about mastery earlier. You really have to be a master at morphing as well, because you may master what's needed right now for this project or for the next year or the next 2 years. But if you're not constantly thinking ahead to what's next, you will either get left behind or someone will tell you what you need to do next. And by the time you're told what you do need to do next, you're probably already behind the eight ball. There's some research out there, two areas that I can cite right now. So the New Work Mindset came out just right before the pandemic, and they said today's high school graduates will, on average, have 17 different careers in over 5 different industries throughout their professional lifetimes. And many of those careers have not yet been invented. So think about, not only as a learner, what that means, the ginormous impact that that statistic has, but also think about a university or an organization like MedCerts and what that means with regard to educating and developing people in light of what the future holds. And so in addition, again, to the hard skills or those short-term technical skills that are needed right now, it's a long game too. It's not just a short game, and we have to be paying attention not only as industry leaders, but also as a nation, in the long-term investment in our citizenry. Because if we're not paying attention to those skills that help with learning and help with that mindset of I need to be prepared to learn for the rest of my life, and not in a grudging way, but in an excited, curious way. Like, I've done this before and I can do it again, and I'm excited about what's next. One of the best ways to do that, two of the best ways to do that, is one, through gamification, which we're exploring in depth and already have some programs in place at Grandview. We have a game design program, and we're expanding some of those ideas into education and business. And certainly MedCerts utilizes game design and gamification in your teaching. But the other element of that is that we have got to set our students up for learning for the rest of their lives in a curious way, in an intentional way, and in a way that, again, shifts that narrative that they can do it, they have done it, they will continue to do it, and they will absolutely be successful at doing that. One of the benefits of a four-year degree, particularly a residential four-year degree, is we have to be very careful that we don't underestimate the learning that occurs outside of the classroom. There is learning that happens in student leadership positions and in some of those association and programmatic activities outside of the classroom. But even more importantly, particularly with regard to professional preparation and honestly being able to decide what sort of career you want, at least to start in, because the reality is you need to be prepared for maybe 16 more careers throughout your professional lifetime. But that experiential learning is so important, and we're just about to launch our new strategic plan at Grandview University, which includes the Jacobson Institute. And our goal is to have every one of our students have the opportunity to leave with or leave that first leg of their journey with a degree, if that's what they choose, a certification or a credential, experiential learning, research opportunities, and then just an excellent experience overall that they can take with them to help them tell the story about what their, we kind of call it your skills backpack or your skills portfolio. What have you learned, and how can you tell the story to demonstrate that what you've learned is transferable and applicable to the role that you're seeking right now?
Regarding someone that is sitting in a presidential chair, a provost chair, or stakeholder that's making decisions for others or for your learners, what's the advice you give somebody like that?
I actually have several colleagues who are relatively new presidents that I connect with on a regular basis. As I shared earlier, I'm in my second presidency, so maybe have a little bit of that. I wouldn't say wisdom, but just a little bit more experience in this arena. I think first and foremost, as a college president or a university president, or honestly a leader of any industry, you have got to be curious. You have got to not only be curious for the sake of your own personal growth as a leader and as a human being, but also to demonstrate the value and necessity of curiosity in the skills development that we need. Because at the end of the day, it's about the mindset of being excited about learning and knowledge acquisition and mastery of a new skill or a new concept and idea. So to me, number one, curiosity. Like I often will say, you cannot lead if you do not read. When I say that, I have to, there's a little caveat to that now in 2024. Maybe reading for you is listening, or it's a visual. Maybe you're a visual learner and you need the video, or the maybe it's hands-on. Maybe you need the experiential learning. I need a little bit of both. My preferred modality is reading because I'm kind of a speed reader, and so my mind moves over the things that I don't think are necessarily relevant to what it is that I'm seeking right now. But I also, I was a psychology major undergrad, and I understand the importance of seeing something and then also writing or underlining or highlighting and writing. All my books are paper books because I like to underline and write in the margins, and it just helps solidify my learning. But it also helps to expand the transferability of what I'm learning to what I'm doing. And so those are two really important things. And then, the third piece for leaders is, we talked about this very early on in our conversation today. You don't know what you don't know. So like again, be curious not only in what you're reading, but also in talking to other leaders out there. But don't limit it to leaders. I learned so much from my direct reports. I learned so much from people at all levels and all areas of my organization, because they're the ones that are, out there in the trenches, really working face to face with our students and our learners and our alums and our all of our constituents. And every single person at our organization adds value to this organization, and we cannot ever forget that or underestimate the value of that. Thank you for the opportunity for the conversation and for the partnership.